Another Jim, N0DNY.
There we go.
Ralph, KA0CET.
David, K6OG up in Estes Park.
This is John, N5WMS.
Wayne, 80KE.
Dave, W0DAS.
Mike, N7MR.
Vic, KE0ME.
And Kilo Zero Alpha Romeo Delta.
Like your hat, Ann.
Oh, thanks. I'm outside. I'm going to be trimming trees while I'm listening to the radio.
Well, I was going to try to work FT8, so.
KE0LCK, the other Mike from Windsor.
Roger, KG0I.
Mark, AE0DJ in Fort Collins.
Is that everybody?
Not quite.
Oh, Carrie.
N0WIQ. Carrie in Loveland, Colorado.
Steve's putting his call sign up on a billboard.
This is
Steve, you know you can rename your
Zero LAO.
Anyone else?
Oh.
Dave, W0DDZ.
There we go. Now I can see me.
Thomas?
No, but I just want to make sure that I've got my head in the screen.
Oh, we got to remember you. Anyone else? Okay, Katie's at UIU. I set out a meeting a little bit different format, a newsletter type situation instead of just a sheet. I thought we'd get back to the newsletter type style. It's the same things that that Steve is putting out. It's just basically a different format. Any questions on that? Because it was quite comprehensive, I thought, or at least it had a lot of stuff on it. Comprehensive would be a big word, I would think, for that. Red Feather Project update. I don't know anything more than I did the time before. We're kind of going at this a little bit different. I'm going to still go try to get through the county, but we're going to try a different way. We're going to actually try approaching the Forest Service itself. Jim Dixon basically gave me a report that said this is how you get into the thing, and they were asking for different things, which made it a lot simpler, I thought. But basically, we're really trying to get this thing done. The equipment is really ready to go. Other than we just need to build the stacks and put it in. If we're talking to James, we could probably do it in 1 to 2 days if we do it like we've done the 275 and the Buckhorn group, where we build the stack and everything at his house or at somebody's house, and then just go in and throw it in there. But we would need a trip up there in order to see what's really going on, because we don't know what kind of power we got and anything we're going to need. So anyway, there are some questions we have that I can't even get answered. So this next week, I'm going to push real hard and see if I can't get some answers for you. And I do apologize. It just, you send them notes and they just don't say anything back. Any questions about that?
Joe, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
I love your report and I love your optimism. And if everything goes well,
Microphone down.
Thank you. I love the optimism and love the report. And if everything goes well, yes, it would be 1 to 2 days. Murphy is a member of our technical team. Murphy's Law says anything that can go wrong will. And I say Murphy was an optimist. So when we're dealing with solar panels, running cables up towers, had a couple of days. And guys, we may get this thing in a day or two and we'll celebrate. And if we don't, and it takes us an extra week or 2 or 3, please accept reasonable results. I know you will. End of my rant. Thank you.
And to add on what Doug is talking about, we have a very short window here. It's not like we're at Horsetooth where, well, if it's going to snow in December, we got a problem. From what I understand, and Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, they have just now opened the area up there to get up to the place. And so we're looking at possibly September, October frame work. So we really need some answers pretty quick. Otherwise, we're stuck until next year. So that's one of our issues too. So plus, we actually need to go up there and look before we actually start building things. Any
Joe, one comment.
Go ahead.
We're getting some background noise, so I'm going to go ahead and mute everybody. And if you need to say anything, unmute yourself and then speak.
I guess I have to speak.
Yep.
I know he's here someplace, but he's probably on the second screen here. Where's Mr. EMP? You want to kind of bring us up to date on field day, please?
Hey, Joe. Well, field day is a go. We're going to be at the northwest corner of the Larimer County Fairgrounds, or the ranch. Last communication I got from them is the north gate will be open north of the main entrance. The main entrance will be closed. So that north gate is supposed to be open 6 a.m. next Saturday, a week from today. And we can start setting up at 6 a.m. And we need to be out of there by 1800 hours on Sunday. They should have a porta potty for us. We're not doing any of our own cooking. Bring your own food. Joe, will we have ice chests with water and sodas from the club?
We can, but Darren, we don't have any. Don't we have an ice chest, or do we?
We do not have an official club ice chest, but I've got 2 that I've loaned out to picnics and stuff. I'm happy to do that.
I can bring a big one. So yeah, we can do that.
Okay, can you 2 guys bring sodas and water? And
sure.
I will bring, per our health plan, everybody should have got, I will have alcohol, disinfectant, and bleach solutions. So any time that we're sharing equipment or tools or working together to put up somebody's antenna or something like that, we can clean and disinfect things as we see fit at the time. And should have a mask with you in case we have to all get together, like to help put up some equipment or something. And if we're in close proximity, we should have masks available to wear. And then of course, when we're spread out, a dozen people or so over 2 acres, we won't have to be too worried about the masks at that time. Any questions from anybody on any of that?
Yeah, I guess I have a question. You can set up, but I don't think you can set up your radios at that time. Is that right, Greg?
Well, we can set up all our equipment, is my understanding. And I've never participated in a field day, so feel free to correct me. But it was my understanding you can set up whenever you want. You just can't start operating until noon, right?
I don't think that's correct. I'm going to lean toward Doug. Doug, you've done a lot of these things. Is that true? I thought it was like you had a 3 or 4 hour window and that's all you could do before you started.
The simple answer is there's 2 times. 24 hours before the event, so that would be noon on Friday, you may start setting up. And if you do that, your operating period goes from noon Saturday to noon Sunday, local time. I think it's noon. Yeah. Yeah, I'm getting Roger's giving me a nod. Okay. Hopefully that was a nod. Yes, I'm accurate. Not yes, I'm speaking. Okay. Thank you, Roger. There is a category that if you don't start setting up until noon on Saturday, you can operate an additional 3 to 4 hours. Very few people do that. So It's either noon Saturday or noon Friday. Your choice.
Okay, Greg, I stand corrected. I'm sorry.
All right, and so since we have to be out of there by 1800, we're not going to try to extend our operating time on Sunday. So we cannot set up Friday night because we're paying per day for the site, so we don't have access till 0600 Saturday morning. But so should have that gate open by 6 a.m. We want to keep kind of a log of everybody that even that comes out to visit, and that's something the county wanted for contact tracing in case a week later somebody gets sick and we can go, oh, who was there and who wasn't there and when were they there. So we want to try to kind of log not just the operators but visitors as well. So if you drop by and you're asked, if someone's trying to write your name down, that's why.
Greg, this is Roger. I was wondering what the exchange is going to be. Is it we have to give the nature of our setup, the number of operators or something like that? Do you know what that's going to be? Or maybe it'll be just who shows up?
As far as when we're calling out, you mean, or on the log or what?
No, when you're calling or answering. Usually it's, I think you have to say, it used to be 59 Colorado, but I think it's got the type of station, I think will be an A, but I didn't know any of the other information.
And I don't know any of that myself other than we're using the club call sign W0UPS.
Steve, you want to jump in here and help out? You did it last year. UJK?
Yeah, I'm here. I just had to unmute myself. Well, it depends on the size of the operation on what you use. And you use like 5A or 4A or whatever, but it depends on how many operators you got going.
Well, you won't know that until everybody shows up, correct?
Pretty much, yeah.
And
well, and unfortunately, it's a little more complicated than that, but you're correct. It's the number of transmitters and then the category. And Roger's right. I don't think, Roger, we're showing our age because one of my first field days in the 70s, we used to use 59 Colorado kind of. But it's the number of transmitters in the type of category. Alpha categories are portable emergency power stations, and that's probably where we would be. Bravos are very small groups of 3 or less, so you're not going to be there. Charlies are mobiles, Deltas and Echoes are home stations with or without emergency power, so you're going to be Alpha. The club is going to be Alpha. Then you put the number of transmitters you're simultaneously running, excluding get on the air, novice stations. I think the satellite station doesn't count. You'd have to go through the exact rules, but generally those bonus transmitters don't count. So if you have 3 main stations that you're running, plus a get on the air, plus a packet or the other bonuses, you would be 3 Alpha. Now you're asking, well, what happens if somebody comes along and we suddenly change and we run 4 transmitters? Not a problem. You just change your exchange to 4 Alpha, and you're supposed to use the most you've ever had. So it breathes up. If you had 4 and now you're only running 2, you stay at 4, and that's what you use during the event. And it's okay to change midway through. There's not like scorekeepers that are gonna, hey, this was 3 in the morning and 4 in the. It's field day. Just go.
And also remember, after field day, you got 30 days to turn your results in.
Yeah,
Greg, I'll help you with that. Plus, I don't know if you've seen in the chat line, Dave has sent actually the link to that. I don't know if you know how to get into it. It's EWL.org/field day -rules. And I'll check that out and feed you anything that I see, or you can go ahead and do it yourself.
All right.
You see where he's got that in the chat?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you just go to ARRL and just do a search for field day, you'll find everything.
Yeah. I just haven't read the full set of rules yet.
Yeah.
But keep in mind, field day is not a contest. It's an operating event. It's an emergency preparedness event. Number one rule, have fun.
Yeah.
And
I totally
practice
agree.
for when things are bad.
One other question, bring your own electricity too, right? Not a central generator.
Yeah, no.
I don't think you're going to see a whole lot of stuff coming out of the Budweiser Event Center for you.
Yeah, that's another thing. There is still an active EOC out there, and so don't be going around the buildings. They're kind of sensitive about their operations over there and their building modifications they've been doing. So just come in and out through the north gate to the site, and don't be exploring the rest of the facilities out there.
Greg, you've done a great job on this. I do appreciate all your work. And he had to actually file a report to the county on what his emergency plans were and various other things. So I appreciate everything you did. And it was a very good report. I don't think I could have wrote it.
Well, hopefully you'll be saying the same thing in 9 days. hopefully you'll still be talking to me in 9 days.
I will.
Joe, the club has a generator. I think I gave it to you or one of the other officers a couple of years ago. Is that it was working when I had it? Do you know where that is?
Yes, I do. It's in the shed. I don't know. I guess we could bring it out there if you need it. What is it? It was a 2,000 watt, I think.
1800. Yeah.
1800.
It probably
yeah.
peaks a little bit higher than that.
Yeah, it's a Honda. It's a nice one.
Yamaha, and it should be tested before you take it out there.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
We need to pull that out, test it, run it.
Yeah, because I mean, it sits in a shed. I mean, every time I used it, I had to do a little bit to it to keep. That was the whole purpose of me having it, was keeping it tuned up. So every time you touch it, you have to do a little bit something to it.
Typical. That's 4-stroke, right? It wasn't a 2-stroke?
Right.
Okay. That makes it easier, sort of. Harder to start, but easier.
They tend to be a little quieter too.
Yeah, I don't think I may have got it running when I picked it up. It was an awful cold day out there at your place, though. So
Is it one of those red ones?
No, it's blue.
Blue.
Open
Okay.
frame.
Oh, okay. All right. Because the little red Hondas always use premium gas, which I found out after I clogged mine with regular.
Yes. Fresh gas is always the smart thing to do.
Yeah, Darren, it's sitting as you walk in the door. It's just right there to the left.
Oh yeah, I've seen it. I've almost tripped over it a few times.
I tripped over it the other day. Anything else on field day? Thank you again, Greg. Darren, I'm going to let you do this. If you could do this, because I don't want to. You don't need to share the screen. If you can bring up the bylaw change, so everybody can get a chance to take a look at this.
I can. Give me 1 second.
I guess I should have asked you beforehand, so we had.
Yeah, the heads up would have been nice, but
I just
we'll get this going. Does anyone, before we get going, the bylaw change has been posted up to the NCARC site since last meeting, and I was going to open it up if anybody has any comments or questions concerning that. Hearing a lot of silence out there.
That's good.
It is a very minor change. So let me share.
Silence usually means that no one's read it or no one has questions.
Right.
Or it means they're muted.
The changes were so simple and minor, didn't require much attention.
This is the first section here where we're just changing it from a single member at large to as many as 3 determined by the board as needed. And then I think there was a second piece right here, which talks about the election process.
And for those of you who don't know why we're doing this, we're growing quite a bit. And it doesn't mean that you can't help the club out if you're not an officer. There's no question about that. We expect that. Okay. That's why we have our work groups and various things like that. But we need a position that can vote, that can do other things internally. and that's helpful. That's the reason we're doing this. We're growing, surprisingly enough. Most of the clubs are not, and we are kind of a little bit down from what we did last year, but considering that we have a pandemic going on, I think we're doing really well.
So we need, what is it, 26%, I believe, to pass this. So I will open up the voting through the website later today, and I encourage everyone to log in and vote. I'll send an email with some instructions for that. And if there's no questions, Joe, I'll send it back to you.
I do have a quick question.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Joe. I think this looks good, and if I do a lot of this for like CCARC and other groups, so I always read through and micro scrub all the words. So if I'm reading this correctly, we would have up to 3 board members at large, which I think for our club is a good thing. And it says here later on that it'll be determined by the board how many we need. And then later they'll be elected by the membership. So I gather before an election, the current board would say, I think we need going forward in the next term 2 directors at large or member at large, whatever the board member at large. And then we would vote on those at the meeting. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. I think that's a workable way. And if you so decide, what if you decide after you get in there, we've had a major rewrite of Part 97, we need another board member at large. I believe by this, the board could say, well, we really need another one. We're going to create the position. And then it says here, the board can fill the position until, I guess, the next meeting or the next election. Did I see? Is that also
the next club meeting?
Okay, at which point the club meeting you would ask for a special vote.
The full membership, the opportunity to do a special vote. And
I think this works, and I don't see any loopholes that are, so very good. Thank you.
We would keep the group or the members at, let them know that we are doing this, and anyone can actually run for this position. It's not something that we put up.
Yeah.
And at this point in time, we're needing a second member at large, but we put 3 in the bylaws so that we don't have to change this in 6 months or a year again if we happen to need a third. Just give ourselves a little bit of space to grow.
And if approved, that election will actually take part on the July club meeting, whatever that is. I don't know the date. So for our second member at large. And right now we have 1 candidate, that's Jim Dixon. If you would like to, please send me a note, president@ncarc.net, and I will put you on the thing. So I'll give you time to think about it. Anything else?
Not for me.
Other than Darren's background there, we've been talking to Golden Corral, and they have no idea what's going to happen or meetings in that room. And I totally understand why not. It's so bad that even Perkins for our board meetings won't allow us in there. So, and I'm going to go talk to them today, but that's entirely you folks. But I don't know where we're going to do. It's been talked about having an outside picnic type atmosphere someplace. That I'm looking into, possibly in Loveland here, but I'm not even sure that they'll even hold us a place. I don't know. I haven't even checked into that. So might do that to just kind of say hi to everybody and this and that, but we're still trying to work on this. So just kind of stay with us on this thing. We're thinking seriously about holding, and we've got all pretty much people who are pretty much in the know, so this may not affect a whole lot of people, but we're thinking very seriously about having a possible teleconferencing Hamlet class. Does everybody know what the Hamlet is? I'm seeing Mike say no. So that's good. This
I've
is something
also got at least a couple of members online that have been through one.
that's good. What the Hamlet class is something that actually Mark Clark's mother came up with, which I thought was great. It's basically a beginner. Well, now I got the license. Now what do I do with it? So we go through what repeaters are all about, programming radios in the basic terms, all kinds of different things. Antenna stuff. It doesn't really get into the too technical stuff. It can, okay, but we let the class basically run itself. So far, we've had, I think, 3 of them, right, Darren? I think in the past?
Yes, I believe we've done 3.
And they've been very successful, I think.
What you should add in there is etiquette over the radio.
Oh, there is.
Okay.
Radio protocol is what we call it.
Got it.
We did that last year. So, and it's went really well. We've had 5 instructors, me being not one of them. Probably you're lucky. So we're thinking very seriously about doing one of those things. Okay. Any questions about that? And anybody can come. I mean, it's just not something we're designating to just, the people who are beginners. Anybody can show up to the thing. Sometimes it's not a bad idea to kind of look at this stuff because you can ask questions to these folks too.
Joe,
Is
how
the
long
focus-
do these run normally? How many sessions?
Well, normally we had a 2-hour session, so that probably will be one. I've taken a look at the 2019 and the 2020 because we did it in, I think it was February this year. Normally what we do is we wait till the Hamfest is over and everybody gets their license and then we bring it in then. But since we've been doing these teleconferencing courses as far as these things go, we thought seriously about actually having one after this particular class. It's running until probably, mid-July, Darren, something like that?
Yeah, early mid-July is when this one will finish up.
Mm-hmm. What's the focus of the class? Is it typically entry-level technicians, or does it cover, some broader topics also?
It'll mostly focus on new technicians where, they've gone through the technician class, they passed their test, but they don't really have any hands-on on the air sort of experience. So just getting them comfortable getting on the air.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks.
I was going to bring up what it actually was here that we did. No, that's not it. Well, anyway, yeah, it covers whatever we figure that you need. Okay. We look at it as, I really don't know what, well.
Joe, it's, isn't it? It's repeaters, it's antennas, it's soda, and then Dave has a good section at the very end too that I can't, sorry, Dave, I don't remember what piece you teach.
Programming and
yes, yeah. So repeaters, Darren, you do the antenna piece, James and I do the soda piece, and then the
not just antennas, but radio selection, antenna selection.
We also had Mike doing the protocols and various things like that, and then Bob doing the, hey, this is a repeater, this is how you get into it. We're looking for somebody who don't know how to use this thing.
They're pretty well received, well attended.
Never had anybody walk out and say it was a waste of time. We actually had some people from Longmont come in here to, who are, I think, what is it, Kat? Is that her name? I can't remember. She's one of the instructors from down Longmont. She thought, hey, this is really something. Maybe we ought to do this. So we had both her and her husband come up, and it really was very successful, I thought. And if you don't remember the first time you got on the radio, this is why we do the class. Any questions about that? Now, I don't know. Is James on?
Yep, I'm here.
On?
Yep.
James, you had a proposal you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, let's see. I'm on a kind of low bandwidth connection here, so we'll see if I start chopping up, I'll kill my video. I wanted to, so I'm going to get to some of the changes and the things that we've done recently a little bit later, and a tech report's got a massive amount of stuff in it. for those of you that want to go read about it. But one of the things that we are quickly running short on, and I would like to bring forward to the club, is the current repeater controllers that we're using. They're called RTCMs, or radio thin client modules, and they're essentially the smarts and the sound card, if you will, interface between a repeater and the PC that controls them, and they are the device that allows us to do the linking and the voting and all that good stuff. And so we're on the verge. We've got one that's kind of flaky, and they do tend, after, you know, when bad things happen at sites, they are a piece of electronic equipment like anything else, so they're just as subject to bad things, lightning and surges and things. We've got them as well protected as we do all the rest of the gear, but we're running out, and we've just deployed a new stack of voting receivers at Horsetooth. And when I get to my presentation, I'm going to introduce something that Rocky Mountain Ham, and specifically Doug Sharp, is working on for our Rattlesnake site, called a voter hotel. In a nutshell, Rattlesnake site is probably one of the world's RF quietest repeater sites. And receivers there are just, they're able to hear things that we couldn't dream of hearing at any of the fully populated RF sites. So we're going to stack a lot of receivers there, and I need some RTCMs to fill that out, as well as a spare or two. As of today, the RTCMs are about $265 a piece, plus some shipping. But there was a recent vote by Colorado Connection to order a batch for themselves, and Rocky Mountain Ham might order some. We'd like to, if this is approved for our purposes, join forces with all the clubs and approach the manufacturer, who is a ham, of the RTCM, and see if he'll cut us a little bit of a deal on a bulk order and get those to us. So the majority of these would go to the voter hotel, a bunch of voting receivers on Rattlesnake that will greatly enhance the receive sensitivity and coverage of all of our mountaintop NCARC repeaters. And the rest would be spares, and I just want one spare on the shelf for if something were to go down or go bad, we could pop it in. 2 spares. Doug says 2 spares. Yeah. I think with what I'd like to ask the club to buy 5 of them. So what is that? It's about $1,300 plus a little bit of shipping. I'd like to buy 5 of those. With 5, we will actually have 2 spares, including the one we will need for the Dead Man / Red Feather site if it gets approved. Until that gets approved, we guess we'll have 3 on the shelf. But these are devices that just don't go to waste. They're crucial for everything, and we just never seem to stop finding a need for them. So yeah, I'd like to ask the club to approve up to maybe $1,400. That'll cover shipping, and with the expectation that hopefully we, joining with the other clubs, get a bigger break on the price. But if we don't, that would cover everything we need to do, and shipping too. Let me stop there and see if there's any questions or discussion about that.
Aside from buying the new ones, can the old ones be serviced and refurbished?
They can, and we have had success with that. It's actually very inexpensive to do that. The biggest problem we have is that this is the company, quote unquote, is a single ham doing this in his spare time in his mostly semi-retirement. And so he absolutely he's very good at fixing them, and his prices are fair. But if you want it done fast, that's a different story. We've seen turnarounds as little as 2 weeks, but we've had a couple of folks that have been chasing after him for a couple of months, and they eventually get it back, but it's kind of on ham time. So
right. No, what I'm suggesting is that we would indeed buy the new ones, have the spares, but also take the old ones, get them serviced, and have them in the bank.
yeah, absolutely, Mike. Yeah, that's a phenomenal plan. And as of right now, I've only got one flaky one, but I know between Doug and Mark and Doug's got I think a box full of flaky ones. So yeah, absolutely. We could bulk send those in for repair also and restock our supplies.
Just a quick comment. I also have a mic down. Yeah, my mic's down.
Yep.
I also have a flaky one, and you guys probably noticed the temporary repeaters that went up while James was rebuilding, and one of them went down. Well, I was using one of my flaky RTCMs. So because I didn't have any other spares out of service. So hence why I'm also buying a bunch.
I'm taking that wasn't one that was repaired, correct?
No, it's
in need of repair.
Yeah, it's in need of repair, and yeah, long story, but the guy is good. What James didn't say is he's dealing with some personal issues in his life, and that's why he's a little bit slow sometimes to respond. And we all have challenges in our lives, especially with this isolation and quarantines. But it's our only path forward right now until we eventually identify another platform, which we're trying to do, but that's a very long process to have something that's more reliable and compatible. But we're working on it. So in the meantime, a number of the groups are looking at what might be a last time buy. It might not, but it'll keep us going and in good shape so we can maintain everything.
Yep.
James,
so they've been very good to us. You know, we've had very few problems with them, and we've been very lucky. But we've also been riding kind of a little bit risky line with not having any 0 to 1 on the shelf as a replacement should it go down. So that's what the ask is for, is to really improve this new project and put some on the shelf.
James, I do have one quick question, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Is this something that we could repair?
No.
Okay.
It is not. It's the board is, although the design is not what I would consider up to the absolutely top electrical design spec, the manufacturing is very high quality, and it is all surface mount, dual or maybe more layer board. They're about the size of 2 decks of cards, and I don't think there's a through hole part on the entire board. So
okay.
It's a little beyond. It's a little beyond those of us with a soldering iron.
Well, Darren was looking for a project. I just thought, you know.
There is a through hole on there, James.
I might as well take up surface mount solder repair.
Yeah. James, there is a through hole, the pots on the front.
Oh,
that's the only thing. 1 pot, 2 pots, or 3 potentiometers. Everything else.
There's one right there.
There you go. Yeah.
Thanks, Mark.
Yep, that's what the little box looks like.
Well,
So,
are you making a motion?
I am making a motion that we purchase 5 of these with a purchase and shipping price of up to $1,400.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye. It's an aye.
All opposed? I have to ask. Motion carried. You have your money.
Thank you very much, members and everybody. That's I hope that's just a sign that you like what we're doing. You know.
Yeah, now quit spending money.
No, don't. Harry needs the help.
Keep spending money. Keep investing money.
Yeah.
Well, we're also a group that spends money no matter what, individually as well.
You know,
are we a bank?
There's my favorite line. I always tell Doug that one. I said, are we a club that's progressive and doing a lot of neat things, or are we a bank?
Kind of both.
Let's invest in ourselves.
You know, for the new people who are here, why we did all this back years ago when we actually updated everything, everybody was really afraid to take $15,000 and do that. And I said, well, what else are we going to do with it? You know, you can't make any money at it. You can't, unless you want to invest in the stock market, which we really don't and cannot legally.
Doesn't do any good just sitting there.
And so this is your money, and we basically improved what we do, and that's what and I do think that that's why our club is expanding, because we do stuff. I asked a guy from Longmont one time, I says, why are you coming up to our meeting? And he says, well, because you guys do stuff. And so we still will do stuff for anybody that asks.
Yeah. Well, thanks everybody. Think we'll get those on order, and let's move on, Joe.
We're sliding into your
dovetail with what you were just saying. You know, we do stuff, and if any member has a suggestion or something they'd like to see out of the club, feel free to send us an email, and we'll definitely look into it.
Oh, please do. James, we're sliding right into your presentation.
Oh, okay.
I have something real quick.
Oh, go ahead, Jim. You're muted now.
Yeah, I had to find the button. I use my space bar during the meeting whenever I don't talk all the time to unmute myself temporarily. But to go off of what James just proposed, you should have asked for more, James, because as some people know, I'm also involved with Colorado 4x4 Rescue and Recovery and Search and Rescue. And this past month, we approved a biannual donation for the use of repeater systems that we always rely on. And our first one is being donated to Northern Colorado Amateur Radio Club, $1,000. And we will be doing another donation for one of the repeater clubs this fall also. So here's $1,000 for the club to use for repairs and upkeep on the systems.
That's fantastic. Thanks, Jim. And that's great news.
Yes, thank you, Jim. What else do you need, James? What else do you need, James?
No, procedural wise, all requests for money are now closed until next month.
Yeah, I think we're doing good. And as we slide into the presentation, I'm going to show off a lot of the work that was just done. So
I do have a question for you and for Doug. Buckhorn West, the repeater that can do anything, DMR, analog, where are we at with that?
I'm going to try the space bar. Is this working?
Yes.
I had forgotten that I could do this. Thank you, Jim, for reminding me. I have the repeater. It's a 100-watt Motorola. I ordered one of the nifty multi-mode MMDVM cards that plugs right into the repeater. And we just have to, I actually have two of those. We just have to put it together, figure out how to make it work, and put it up at the site. So I will take care of the initial, make sure the repeater's working properly at full power and receivers and all that stuff. I will put the card in it and make sure that it kind of waddles like a duck and quacks like a duck. And then I would ask, I'd like somebody from the club to figure out how to teach the duck to fly and nurture it and have it grow up and manage it, supervise it from a control operator standpoint, and let's get this thing up on the hill. We also, as part of that, need to put in our permanent cables, coax cables to the antennas, finish our antenna installations that we did in, what was it, January during a really warm day. But it's not high tower work, but you're on a tower and you're on a mountain, so there's a little bit of wind. And I'm getting tired of holding the space bar. I'm gonna, there we go, unmute here.
You'll see a picture of it here shortly.
And James is going to do a picture. So we're working on that. And I would like to get a small group because, you know, with isolation, and I'm very comfortable working in a small group, but I'm not sure that I want to be in a group of 50 people with 50 times the risk of picking up COVID. We've all been very good in that regard. So let's get this done and do some more work on Buckhorn West now that we have done. James is going to talk to you about Buckhorn East. So for everybody, does anybody not know what we mean by Buckhorn East versus Buckhorn West? Has Joe properly educated everybody on that?
I'm actually going to go over that in the presentation a little bit too.
I'm going to shut up now. Thank you.
No worries.
Go ahead, James.
All right. So what I thought of, I could have used this presentation to just simply show the work that was done at Buckhorn East and Horsetooth, but we have a lot of members and these meetings seem to be quite well attended. We have a lot of new members is what I meant. And not everybody has been or even can go to repeater sites. So what I thought I would do is just do kind of a picture album today and run through the repeater sites that you use, on a day-to-day basis and show you a little bit about it. And when we get to the two that were recently worked on, we'll show you the work that was done. So no presentation, so to speak, just a lot of pictures. And we're going to do a small and quick sort of tour of the repeater sites. I have more pictures of some than others, so we'll build on that as we go forward. But I'm actually going to start at a site not owned by NCARC. I'm going to start at CSU because it is, let me share my screen here. It is a fairly large hub for the network, the digital backbone that we use. And I am just going to share this whole screen to make changing a little easier. Okay. Am I sharing too much? And can I minimize this? I was hoping to get the. Do you guys see just the picture, or do you see all the controls for the meeting too?
Ooh, we see everything.
We see everything.
All right, let me change my sharing here to make this a little bit less. We'll just share this one. All right, so this is the two 12-story dormitories on at CSU in Fort Collins on the corner of Shields and Laurel Street. And if you look the left building, you'll see the big white station master. That's the VHF CSU repeater. This is a jumping point for us. This is where all the microwaves can come down off the mountains and hit this building before they shoot off to another CSU building, my office actually, where we have a portal to the internet. This is a picture up there on the roof. On the roof, looking, the left little two-foot dish is actually looking at Horsetooth, and you can see Horsetooth Rock just up and to the left of the A there. And the right dish in here is looking at the Rattlesnake Ranch site. And they're both kind of far away and too hard to see in a photo, but that's what the rooftop view looking that direction is. This one is the bottom edge of the 2-foot dish that's looking at the Budweiser Event Center. And if you look at all those cranes, this picture was taken as I had a very big worry. They were constructing the new CSU stadium at this time. And we clear that stadium by about 10 feet. So I was a little nervous about that, but we did actually keep the RF path alive after the stadium was up, and Budweiser Event Center is there on the horizon right in the middle of all those cranes. So the CSU repeater racks that need a little bit of cleanup on this, but you can see here the bottom, as you come up from the bottom, there's a GE Master 3. That is the 147360 at CSU. And then you'll see the white with all the red cables. That's actually the router that's moving all the traffic back and forth. And then above that is the CSU DMR. Above that is the 900 megahertz analog repeater. And then we've got some duplexers and power supply there. Over on the right side, we've got a WinLink station, followed by an APRS station, followed by a D-Star repeater, followed by the 449850 repeater. And so that's what CSU looks like. CSU's inside of an elevator shack, the equipment is. And then here's a close-up more of the roof. Believe it or not, every single antenna in that picture is ours. You can see the 3 microwave dishes, the 2 meter, the 440, the D-Star, the APRS, the 900. That's every single antenna on that roof is a ham-owned antenna. So we get this site with an MOU with the public safety team. CSU provides us internet and a place to house this in exchange for the public service that it returns. So let me see if I'm going to break things as I move sites here. I did, but I can fix that quickly. All right, we're going to move on to Budweiser Event Center. Also a fairly quick and easy one here, a short one. I keep losing my controls. Okay, so the Budweiser Event Center, if anybody's scared of heights, this one is a good place to avoid. Our repeater is up in the catwalk system, hanging from the ceiling above Budweiser, and as you can see the expanded metal, you're looking down. This is an older picture. That is a Vertex repeater. This is where the Fusion repeater lives, but that's about the only thing changed. We have this 4 foot by 4 foot metal box, and you can see it's suspended from the ceiling of the Budweiser Event Center above the catwalk. And so we've got power supply duplexer controllers. There's PC in there. And this is also a microwave hopping point to get to Namaqua Hill above Loveland for the LRA connection. So it's a pretty simple site, kind of a cool view. When you're up there, you can look down, and at one point they were practicing down there, and I was scared out of my wits that we were going to drop something. We did eventually drop a zip tie, and I was horrendously scared to drop something on the ice while the Eagles were playing there or practicing there. But yeah, and then this is the outside. If you look at the center of the picture, you'll see kind of a long pole there with a collinear vertical on it. That's the 448025 repeater, and just out of the picture are the microwaves antennas that shoot to CSU into Namaqua. There you can see one of the antennas, the little square sitting there. And that's Budweiser. There's Darren's son, Tony. You'll never be closer to the scoreboard in your life. That was pulled up into the ceiling for an event. And that's how the mast is mounted up on the roof penthouse. And there's the repeater antenna, very simple antenna there, works fabulously though. And the building had a very nice grounding capability for us. So we did our lightning suppression right there with the metal beams coming right out of the roof. And the access hatch, that's how you get up onto the roof, and you can see the ice below. It's a pretty see-through kind of a place. And that's kind of Budweiser. So let me
Are you sure that's Tony? I didn't see an ice cream cone.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right, we're going to move on very quickly here. Only just a few photos with UNC in Greeley. Come on, here we go. This is the rooftop of the building on the UNC campus in Greeley. Those 2 dishes you see, one is pointed at Buckhorn East, and the other one is pointed at Horsetooth. So those are 54 and 47 mile microwave hops, respectively. So that is a pretty good link on a 2-foot dish with a 2-watt microwave radio. Those are both running 5 gigahertz. And they're very stable and work pretty well. Above that mast is the repeater antenna for the 146850 Greeley machine. And that's how we get connectivity out to Greeley. Right in front of that is the UNC police repeater antenna. that we look through fairly well. You can see the mountains back there. It's a long shot. There's kind of the front side of the dishes and the antenna. And there's our little cabinet. Very simple site. 2-meter duplexer off to the left. Power supply in the bottom, the router, the PC, the repeater, and some control equipment there. And that's the whole site. To the left, that cabinet you see is a K0OJ's 440 repeater that's co-housed at the same location. We actually share an antenna. It's a dual band antenna on the roof that we're duplexed together onto. And that is the site. There's a little bit closer. You can see the RTCM at the top. We use those internet connected rig runners to turn power on and off to things up on the left. And then repeater, PC, and router. And that's it's up also. This one's on top of the elevator equipment building, which is on top of the roof. All right, moving on. Rattlesnake. I don't think a lot of pictures have been shown of Rattlesnake yet because it's a fairly new site. And I think we showed some pictures of the enclosure we got up there. This box is the enclosure we had the adventurous time of towing up there. And this was the solar panel installation. That frame was cemented into caissons in the ground, and then Greg had some spare beams from skyscrapers to throw on there just for a little extra weight. And there's the panels installed, front of the box. And you can see the unistrut rails that we mounted on the box there that we're you'll see here in a minute is
James,
so we started
to mention there is that side is completely off the grid, so it is 100% solar.
That is correct. There is no commercial power at this site at all. Those panels are providing the entire power for the site, and those are 325 watt each panels. So we've got that, and then as we move inside, we tried to start with clean builds again instead of legacy building on what was sitting at each site and just wiring on and on and on. So here we have a 12 to 24 volt up converter, 2 of them, one for the router, the silver one in the top left is the router. The top right box is actually a site monitor that monitors all of our voltages and currents and things that the site is using so we can maintain the battery health with solar. And then another 24 volt up converter for the microwave radios, and then some surge suppression for the microwave radios with the little boxes and the PoE injectors. There it is mounted in the rack and starting to get wired up.
What's the converter at the bottom left right there in that photo?
That is also a 12 to 24. The Samlex up here and the silver one are both 12 to 24. The difference is the silver one is running only the router, which we do not power cycle. And the black one is actually able to be pulsed off and on to reset the microwave radios. If we ever had one of the radios go haywire or something like that, we can pulse it and do a fresh reboot on them. But the routers are not very friendly to that. So we leave the router up all the time and pulse the microwave radios off for a reboot if they were to need. And we try to get at least 2 microwaves to every site so that if for some reason we have a bad radio, a bad path, we can come in the other way and clean it up. Here's the starts of the shelf. We have a couple of rig runners to turn things on and off, and right there is the WinLink station, which is actually no longer located at Rattlesnake. It's at Horsetooth now. I'll get to that in a minute.
Jim, quick question. Whose router are you using?
We use Microtik. So this is I guess I don't have a picture of it, but the router is a Microtik. In these smaller sites, we use an RB 2011, router board 2011. In the bigger sites, we use either CRS 326s or CR 125s. But these are 10-port routers. It's got 5 gigabit ports and 500 megabit ports. And that's what we're using at most of the sites. This is the battery bank for the site, and this was donated to us by Rocky Mountain Ham. Those are 2-volt cells that are 300 amp hours each.
And they're really heavy.
They're really heavy. Yeah, so that is that's the battery pack that's keeping the site running. And that is the solar charge controller that keeps it healthy and maintained. So it's been programmed for that type of a battery. And if you let's see here, I think we can actually, you can actually see we're currently, whatever day we were at there, that was 82.6 volts coming off of the solar panels. We're putting 13.5 volts out at 5.7 amps. It's basically float charging the batteries there. You can see this is a 4-state smart charger with temperature compensation. So you can see it's doing its job quite well. And we do have the panels, the 4 panels are series connected.
Does this one have an Ethernet connection?
It has the capability of having the module, but we do not currently have the module.
Okay, thank you.
And there's the site. It's got a few more antennas now, but that's kind of what it looks like as of right now. The mast is on the unistrut clamps. One of those dishes points down to CSU, and the other dish points to Horsetooth North. And there's the WinLink antenna up there. It's got a few more antennas now. And that is Rattlesnake. There's kind of looking down over Fort Collins, and there's Mark N7 CTM there in front of the solar panels. And many thanks to N0 EMP for providing the space here for us. That's Rattlesnake.
So James?
Yes, sir.
There we go. I am running here. You alluded to the voter hotel. So do you want to just simply mention that? What we're going to do is put 8 receivers up there that I have a lot of GE Master 3 repeaters, but what I don't have is power amplifiers. Those tended to get blown up, but their receivers are fabulous receivers. So we're going to put 4 UHF and 4 VHF. And if your group needs a receiver, you provide your RTCM and you can have a receiver up there. So these are all mounted up in a rack and will be a nice addition to the site.
Yeah, so I'm going to show a picture of it at the end, Doug, but the good insert there, that's where it will live, is in that enclosure in its own rack. We've thanks to Dave, DDZ, he donated a rack to us that worked quite well, and Doug's got it full of receivers already. We'll show a picture there, but that's where they will be housed.
Perfect, thanks. We'll let you move on to Buckhorn.
Yeah, and unfortunately I don't have any pictures of our equipment inside of Buckhorn West, but this is the new Buckhorn West site. It's a little bit of a busy tower, and there's also another small problem on this, not a problem, but an awareness factor here. If you look at those antennas on top there, those black curly cues, and then the ones on the left that look like arrows, those are all 50 plus kilowatt FM, commercial FM radio stations. This site is really, really RF hot. And you have to be, if you look at there's kind of 2 main decks of expanded metal there where you can walk on. We really can't, we have to stay below the first deck to be anywhere near close, safe enough to work on the tower. There's an exposure hazard up there that's unbelievable. Luckily, below those decks, it's real nice down there, and we have we're not having any problems with the repeater desenses or anything like that. Things are working very well. And this is at the base of that tower. This is the ice bridge into the building where the cables come down and head into the tower. You can actually see the Buckhorn East Tower pretty much dead center up in front of that picture amongst all the other towers. There are a lot of RF up here on this site, Buckhorn East and West. This is the room that our cabinets, 2 racks that Doug built, are right next to that black cabinet. That is a wireless IP provider in the area, and we're sitting next to them now. But a nice clean room with excellent grounding, great power, and good light inside of the old AT&T building. It's huge, and 10,000 square foot, if I remember the number right. And that's the tower on the outside. So believe it or not, all of our antennas are going to be located, if you can see my mouse, about right here, right in the center here below this deck. And Buckhorn is so high, the performance of the antennas right there are extremely good, especially given that they're very large antennas. So that's the beginnings of Buckhorn West. More pictures to come as we finish building that site out. And we're almost through here,
James,
folks.
if I do have a shot of the rack, if you want to, while you're getting your next set, can I pull up a share?
Sure. If they've got it set, if Darren's got it set too. Yep, you got it. All right, there's the rack.
You should, let me, well, I'll just temp unmute. That's the rack. Down on the bottom is a 900 megahertz P25 that's run by Tracy, KI0HC. Right above it is a Master 3, the black unit there. That's the Colorado Connection Master 3 on VHF, 146.73. Above it is a UHF DMR. That's the Buckhorn DMR and its associated filter above it. And I don't know, and there's a little bit of stuff above. There's the rig runners, just like we had at the other site. Same exact units. I forget what's in this blank panel. Maybe it's just a blank panel. The AC power rig runner, the power strips for convenience, and the router up above. And I think above that is and this is just some of our antennas, but just miscellaneous support things and pieces. You can actually see in this shot the UHF antenna here, which is actually 8 dipoles all looking to the east. And so we're firing as much power as possible to the east with, as you can see in the background there, the mountains to the west. We're not going to get very far. That's a very blurry photo. And there's a close-up of the UHF antenna right up the left side here, and the 146.73 VHF there, all down below this metal plating so that we have a little bit of isolation. So, and let me stop the share and turn it back to James.
Thanks, Doug. I appreciate that.
James, I have a question.
Uh-huh.
You probably told me this and I forgot. Who owns that building?
It is a tower company. I don't know the name of, what's Tony's company? You know, Doug?
I don't know what he goes by, but he's a friendly tower owner, small business, and he allows us use of this tower and a tower at West Creek down on the Rampart Range, and a tower in kind of near Conifer that he owns. And some people are probably asking, why do we have 2 sites on Buckhorn that are literally, what, 500 feet apart? Friendly tower owners that give us free lease access are very rare. And so what we've chosen is, between the various clubs here, we're going to work together. We're going to potentially populate dual sites, not competitively, but to be able to support each other. If we ever lost one of these, we'll just move the equipment to the other with any restrictions the landlord may give. But we're going to hang together, we're going to help each other, and we're going to have long-term stability that way. So it's Tony Hagen's, and he's been very friendly to us, and we're very much appreciate his generosity.
Not to complicate things, but do we need an MOU with those guys?
And I think we're in good shape the way we are,
Yeah.
actually.
Okay.
We have it with RM Ham, so we're good.
Okay, no problem. Just
Yeah, there's one in place that kind of covers us already.
okay. Thank you.
So here is this is the Buckhorn East site, and we were, thanks to Jim K6ETE for a couple of the photos in here as well. The tower that you see right here, on the right to the right of the wooden pole, is our current tower, and where this aspen tree is in the front right corner, that's where our new tower will be as soon as they put it up. But you can see are you guys able to see my moving mouse arrow in the share?
Yeah.
Yes, we can see
Okay.
that.
I am circling the 146625 antenna. That is that guy right there, while the 447700 is this guy right here. So those are the two, and then our microwave dishes are down low. The 224-840 source subject antenna hangs right here. That doesn't emit very much radiation these days, but we're still working on it. Here you can actually see this is the dish going to Greeley. This is the dish going to Horsetooth. And what's not shown on this picture, there is a 60 gigahertz dish right here that is now going over to Buckhorn West. So we have a triangle of redundancy for the microwave backbone there to both Horsetooth. Both of them shoot to Horsetooth, and both of them shoot to each other. There's a little bit better picture of the antennas. And I want to take note here. The club approved, and we did purchase, and we're just waiting for the new tower, new antennas for this site. And these antennas are DB product antennas. They're actually very good antennas, but I want to show you something here because we're going to get to a photo here in a bit. If you see this antenna, you see all the cabling is on the outside, and the cables go to each one of the dipoles. Everything is outside. Well, in the wind, even though this is a supported antenna, you got to remember this antenna is about 23 feet long. Those pipes flex, and everything flexes. And the cables flex in the ice and the wind. Those connections tend to start loosening up and becoming little diode junctions. And that's actually one of the problems with the 625 and 700 right now. We have several noisy connections. I have repaired these antennas where they have broken clean off a few times already. But that's why we're replacing those with the new Sinclairs, which I'll show you the difference of what those look like here in a minute. There is what they look like. That is the replacement antenna. You can see everything's internal. Nothing is exposed. So the coax that you saw taped to the outside comes up this pipe, and then it goes all the way around this tube, and then connects out here. Everything is in a stiff, non-moving environment here, and there's no exposed connections anywhere. These antennas tend to last a lot longer and stay quieter. That's why we're making those moves. So thanks again to the club for approving that improvement. You'll think you'll be very happy when that gets on the tower. That's sitting in my garage right now. And here is a good before picture of Buckhorn East. So the equipment was there. It was a solid site, but as you can see, it really got to be quite messy. We never really did, and I take full responsibility. Most of this work was mine as we were learning new technologies and things. It didn't have all of the things. Things were kind of just bolted, and we were using power injectors with individual wires. It got to be kind of a mess. So 2-3 weeks ago now, that was torn out. Here's a side shot of it, kind of. That's kind of what the wiring looked like, and everything was mounted. The grounding was rather poor. The grounding's been poor up there since it was installed. So then we had a little bit of a small, socially semi-distanced work party. There's Mr. Greg Ella, working in his custom workstation out in the driveway out of his tailgate. And this is what we put in. This is the new rack that is labeled. Things are mounted properly. If we zoom in, we can see a little bit better. What we did was build a 24-volt bus for all of the microwave radios, a 48-volt bus, full PoE bus for cameras that will eventually go to the site. And then as we go down, we added labels to everything, built custom brackets to mount. These are the isolators or circulators, and built all those in so they weren't those were hanging in the air mostly before. And then some power distribution and things down here. So the racks really turned out beautiful. There it is in the shop just before we tore it down and moved it up the mountains. We have the 2-meter duplexer down here, the 220 duplexer down here, and the 440 duplexers up in the rack in the back here, and the 146.625 and 447.700 repeaters. And the same stack as most of the other sites. That's one of the things I've been working on, is trying to make all of our sites standard. And we're working together with Rocky Mountain Ham and Longmont and Loveland and Colorado Connection and everybody else, so that all of our sites are kind of wired the same, using the same equipment. We can share spares with each other, etc. And it's working pretty well.
Is that
so that was, go ahead.
Sorry, this is Phil. Was that RG400 going to the canisters? What?
Yes, sir. Yes, all of the random pieces of everything were removed, and RG400, which is dual shielded Teflon silver plated center conductor with all Amphenol silver plated connectors were used. So we use RG400 in the rack.
Nice. Yeah, that's good cable. It's expensive, but it's good.
Yes, well, you absolutely have to use something like that in a duplex RF noisy environment, and it works very well, and it's much easier to work with than trying to do hardline or even semi-rigid Helix or anything as jumpers. That's exactly what it is, Phil.
A lot of people like to say, I'll use LMR 400. And LMR 400 is a great cable for your ham shack, but it gets noisy when you're trying to transmit and receive at the same time on the cable. You've got to use, okay, this has a little more loss, but by tenths of dB, but we'll have many units of dB less noise, and we'll take that any day.
Yeah, the problem with LMR 400 in duplex service, repeater service, is the dissimilar metals against touching each other in the shields. So here is a picture. You can see the power amplifiers are mounted in the back of the rack. This power amplifier is another donation from Rocky Mountain Ham. That is a beautiful Kenwood Crescend 100-watt VHF amplifier that replaced the mobile amplifier that was converted to repeater service and finally gave up the ghost. And down here is the non-switched 12-volt distribution for the site. And on
James,
the back of the rack,
if all goes well, I'll have an identical UHF soon. But I'm still trying to get that one traded in and acquire it.
Yeah, the UHF one is could sure use that. But thanks, Doug, for the update there. On the back of the rack is a 50 amp switching RF quiet power supply. The disconnect switch for the backup battery here that runs us on battery until the generator starts. And then the big blocks down here distribute the high current 12 volt. And above that, you can see the VHF power amplifier, the UHF power amplifier, and we hid the things that didn't fit on the front on the back. So there's a 12 volt to 24 volt up converter up there. And there's kind of a shot on the left. You can see we did the same thing with the isolators. And then in this site, we didn't have a wall-mounted surge arrestor, so they are mounted to the rack, and the ground strap for the rack is right behind here. So they're mounted, and paint was removed, and they were grounded properly so that we have a good solid connection there. So that's the work that was done on Buckhorn East about 3 weeks ago. And I think we are almost, I think we've got Horsetooth and we're just about done. I got a few quick slides on some what's next, and then I'll let you all to your lunch. All right, the Horsetooth site. most recent work done. That is the tower at Horsetooth. It is a 160-foot self-supporting tower, and it's got 2 cross arms, which are made out of Roan 45 or Roan 55 tower sections turned on their side. I couldn't find a picture from the other side, but to give you an idea, that is the 145115, this 2-element dipole here, and hiding behind this cellular antenna back here upside down is a 2-element 440 antenna that looks just like that, and that is the 447-275. So those are our 2 repeater antennas, and everything else is on the building. After our, we used to have more up there, but with the contract negotiation, that's what we're allowed, and we are following the rules. And why is my advancer not working here? Oh. Give me just a moment. I messed something up. Try this again. Ah, there we go. All right, got my arrow back. This is the building. There we go with Mark N7CTM standing there. You can see we have a lot of, this is a huge microwave hub for the northern part of the digital network. Those dishes are pointing at Horsetooth South, Buckhorn, Rattlesnake, CSU, UNC. This whole cluster of stuff is ours, and then this whole set of dishes is ours. This is the APRS Digipeater antenna, and this is, the Buckhorn voting receiver antennas. This antenna is duplexed now after the project, and this is also the WinLink antenna. So they're sharing that antenna now. And as we move forward, there's a little more close up. Those are between 1 and 2 watt microwave radios, all at 5 gigahertz. And here was the before picture of the Horsetooth rack after we had reduced from 1 to 2 racks. This was kind of what was left over, and it was neater at one point in time, but it kind of suffered the same problem as Buckhorn of adding new technology and fiddling with stuff and all that. It really, the back wall was kind of a mess where we added all the microwave. So you can see there, that's a pretty good indication of why this rack needed to be rebuilt. You'll notice these are all 2-post racks also. Well, after tearing that whole mess out, there's one more before.
That looks a lot like I-25 and I-70 intersection.
Yeah. These are a little out of order here, I'm sorry, but this was we took 2 Kenwood repeaters and put 2 of them in a single box with a special plate by Novexcom. Doug affectionately calls this the double-double, and these are the voting receivers for Buckhorn now. Here was the build happening. You'll see in a 2-post racks that we turned into a 4-post rack. And the duplexer at the bottom is what's now duplexing the 144.39 APRS and 145.030 WinLink together onto one antenna. We've got 145, 115, 275 repeaters as we go up. The Buckhorn 62700 voting receivers, APRS, WinLink, DC power switching, router, and PC. And in the back, as it's being built, power panel, duplexer, and lightning surge arresters for the microwave as it comes together here. There we can see a similar power panel and distribution that we did on Buckhorn. You can start to see here the isolators are being mounted on the brackets. And there it is. It hasn't been neatened up yet. We've got a little bit of work to do up there, but it was getting late in the day and we needed to get off the mountain. So you can see, instead of just random Ethernet lines running all over the place, we now have this keystone panel that we can just use 1-foot jumpers between the router and the panel and then take the cables neatly back to wherever they need to go. So far cleaner installation. And once all the cables are zip tied to all their cross arms and everything, it should look top notch. And so that there it is as it sits. There's our backboard distributing power. Same thing, 48 for cameras, 24 for microwave radios. We have our two 24-volt up converters and a 48-volt up converter for cameras here. And then these are the surge arresters on the inside for each of the microwave radios. There's 4 on the front, 4 on the back. Yes, we have 8 microwave links there at Horsetooth today. Similar power panel distributing the DC with a 50 amp supply. This is the board that I designed and built. It's a GPS distribution amplifier. It takes a single GPS in and then properly buffers and amplifies the signal and distributes it up to 7 other. Each one of the RTCMs needs its own GPS signal. So it's much cheaper to use one of those boards than it is to buy 7 GPSs. So here we are looking at the front of the rack, networking and packet power. And then we move down and you can see repeaters and no, I guess that's it for Horsetooth. So we're a little over time here. I want to respect people's time, and I actually have some things I got to do too, but I did want to spend just 10 more seconds with what's next and some interesting shares from things that we've seen on the mountain. And here's one of the reasons why we buy spares. This was a rig runner. This was actually Doug's rig runner that blew up. And then followed by one of the 2, CSU took a lightning strike. And you can see if you look close enough on here, these are the little surge arrest tubes on one side, and these where the surge arrest was. And it blew the packages clean off the board, and it exploded. And guess what? It did its job. We lost no equipment during that strike. So this, folks, is why it's really important to protect your gear, whether it be at home or a repeater site from lightning. That's the GPS board that I built that you saw in action there at Horsetooth. That was the first. This is a work in progress, but it is functioning, so we're getting there. And there it is in testing. You can see satellites. Good program if you mess with GPS and just need to look at what it's doing. This Visual GPS View is a Windows program that's free. Finally, if you remember back at the Horsetooth, some of those microwave dishes that were on the roof that Mark was standing in front of, this was our first opportunity to use our extended network. This was the WWV event. And at the WWV event, we mounted this dish right here on a mast, pointed at one of those microwaves on Horsetooth with a special setup there. There it is up on the roof of the Rocky Mountain Ham Comm trailer. And that actually provided us 60 megabit per second internet in the WWV camp. That is what allowed us to do a lot of the live streaming out of there and the social media posting, the live logging. Mark WS7M wrote a beautiful program that streamed everything out as it was logged with all the pictures of the lines of where we were contacting people live on a map. It was made possible by that internet connection and some of the stuff that the club funded to provide that kind of portable operation. So that was a huge win. Moving on, this is the voter hotel being built up in Doug's shop. So these are the shelves, the receivers. Some of them have modules and some of them don't yet, but this is the Dave's rack with the receivers going in. This is going to be the voter hotel for Rattlesnake. And lastly, this is where I spent field day last year, and I wish all of you that are going to attend a field day, whether it be in person or virtual this year, a great, safe time, and hope you enjoy. So that ends the virtual tour of all of our repeater sites and kind of a showcase of the work that was done remotely. For sign off, are there any questions or comments? I see
Well done.
Ralph has his hand raised. And you're on mute, Ralph.
Actually, that was supposed to be a clapping for the.
Oh, okay. I saw this. I've never seen. Thank you. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
James, would you like a 30-second of the repeater that we link on Lee Hill?
Oh yeah, that's a great point. I didn't actually touch on that, Doug. Why don't you go ahead
And are we sharing there?
Yep.
Yes.
So that's the cabinet on Lee Hill. It's an outdoor cabinet. And in here on the right is a lot of UHF filtering, some other UHF repeaters, a bunch of voters. But over here on the left is another one of those doubles, the Kenwood repeaters. You can see the RTCM sitting just above that I'm circling here. And this is the double that's 447-750 with its RTCM going back through the microwave to the controller that links 275 to 750. And come on, there we go. There's a picture of the cabinet with all the other towers. Our antennas are actually up this Roan 80 tower. It's a 3-foot face, 200-foot tower, and we're partway up there with our antennas. And that's just cable. There's our previous generation rig runners and DC power system, and you can just see the control panel of the rig runners and one of the views looking out through the trees from ground level, but that's looking out kind of towards Longmont right there. So, and that's our South affiliated site. Back to you, James.
Thank you, everybody, for the confidence and support and making this happen, and all of our collaborative clubs for working together.
James, LCK had a question.
Yeah.
Good, Mike.
Just remind me, Darren, how much are our annual dues for the club?
The rest of us pay 25, but I charge you 50.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure, but as I'm looking through this effort today, James, thank you very, very much. I'm a cheap guy to begin with. I really am.
You really are.
And I see all this equipment, and not only do we have the equipment, but you think about the Hamfest, the Rosin Corps, the technical general classes, the TechNet, the Elmer program, the equipment loaner, 250 members, the affiliations with the Rocky Mountain Hand, the posting of the YouTube videos, the WWV event. I mean, if you don't think you're getting your money's worth out of this effort here, with all these things that are happening, man, you're worse off than I am. I just want to say thank you to everybody that does that.
I also would like to thank Rocky Mountain Ham, Mark, Doug, and our guys, Greg, and I'm probably forgetting somebody, Jim, Darren, and definitely who's the other guy? KI something. Anyway, I'd like to thank everybody that had anything to do with these type of things. Jim was out there. Mark was out there. I want to thank everybody for jumping in and just doing this thing. We found a very good system of rebuilding it online or offline and things like that. I think that's just an excellent way to doing it. I thought you were leaving, Darren.
What was that, Joe?
I thought you were leaving.
I will as soon as my ride gets here.
Okay.
And I got to jump off because I've got a puppy that needs out so bad, and he's reminding me of it constantly. So I'm going to jump off. Thank you, everyone, for everything. It was good to see everybody, and look forward to seeing you all in person hopefully soon.
Thank you, James, for the presentation.
You bet. Any questions, comments, feel free to email in and or use the form on the website. Thanks all.
Thanks, James.
Take care.
Anybody else have anything for our meeting here today?
I have to add here, Joe. This is Phil.
Sure.
That I was just talking to Lou Ann, and I said we couldn't have picked a better time to become ham members or join a ham community, get our licenses, and so forth. I've learned so much just from these little tidbits and knowing what's going on. I've done a lot of studying myself, and if we had joined anywhere else, I've heard stories about people joining other clubs in other states, and they don't do anything. They just have their little monthly meeting, and they don't build things like what we have. And I think we're very we're very happy with what's been going on and what we've learned just through this club. So it's one of the best I can tell so far. So thank you all.
Well, thank you for that. Tony, I don't know if you know anything about this or not, but do you know anything about the Rosin Corps event that's going on in July? Oh, there's Darren.
We're on.
Would you like to talk to about the Rosin Corps event that we're talking about in July or August, I believe?
We've got one scheduled for July 2nd Friday. I think we had to move it to. We'll have to see how that works because the senior center is not open on Saturdays with the virus. But I will get an email out to the club with the information on that. Just talked with the coordinator this previous week to finalize that. But look for them either the first or second weekend of odd months. So we got one scheduled for July, September, and November.
Thank you for that. And surprisingly enough, and I say that because the way that everybody worked very hard to make this happen, the general class went really well. So I'm thinking very seriously about actually continuing on with that for our folks that basically are techs and want to move up, which I do recommend highly. So we're thinking very seriously about going ahead with that. But right now we're dealing with a tech class. Whether we do it via telecommunication or we do it live, it's anybody's best guess whether that's going to happen or not, how we'd handle that. Any questions or something before we say goodbye?
Very quickly, Joe.
Yes, Ralph.
I think as many of you know, I spend my winters in Arizona, and I'm a member of Sun Life Radio Club down there. And due to the nature of the migratory members, there's not a lot of equipment. And now that we have to communicate this way, I would invite people that want to get some more mileage out of any of their presentations, please reach out to me. We would very much, we're always looking for programs, and we would very much appreciate anybody who has felt they've done a particularly good job with a program and would like to present it again to someone else. Please let me know, because over the winter, as I say, we're always looking for programs. I foolishly became a vice president down there of the club, thinking I'd have nothing to do as the vice president. How wrong could I have been? Anyway, please reach out to me if you are at all interested. That was it. I'll let everybody get to their Saturday.
Anything else?
Joe, was this recorded on YouTube so that we could view it up here in Estes Park?
Dave, would you care? I think Dave's still in here.
It was, yes.
I thought so.
Perfect.
Yeah, we record all this stuff, and if for the new people, I think everybody knows this, but just when we go live, we're going to record that with an option to be able to chat in for questions for the presenter or for whoever the speaker is at that point. So that's for the people that really haven't got a way to get to the club meetings and whatever. Anything else? Well, let's adjourn. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Have a
ARC.net. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.